Hank, we have some series history to go over, and the Giants have dominated this rivalry since the beginning of time.
Yes, they are 105, 71, and 5. And, for the most part, since the millennium, the Giants have pretty much, dominated Washington. And, the surprising thing, though, is they have not won a game against them since the 2020 season. And ironically, they actually swept them despite not winning the division. But then the year after was 2022, or 2021 rather, was the first time they got swept by Washington, ironically, since of all years, 2011. But hopefully the Giants can finally find a way to get back on track. And as I told you guys a couple weeks ago, the last two ties in Giants history were both against the football team, as I'll respectfully call them, because I still don't know if I'll ever really get used to Commanders, and I'm still never really gotten used to the change of their old name, but that's neither here nor there. Those were the last two ties in Giant history, and it's pretty crazy how both of them happened, and they dropped the Giants to 7-4-1. And in 1997 also, they got clobbered at home the week afterwards and dropped to 7-5-1. Could history repeat itself and this Giant team find a way to get back on track and win the remaining games? Who knows? I don't know. It's going to be very difficult, but hopefully things change and hopefully we get a better result.
Joe, I'm going to agree and disagree with this comment. I don't know about both. I think one. I think the loser of this game is screwed.
Absolutely.
But the winner is in really good shape because remember, back in, what was it, 2008, Hank, the Eagles were 8-6-1, made the playoffs. They needed 12 things to happen, and the tie actually helped them get in, and they made it to the NFC Championship game in a season that us Giants fans like to forget.
Because it's not a loss.
No.
It sucks that there's ties, but it's not a loss. So technically it's better than us being 7-6.
And hey, what if Detroit loses a game or two and they just miss out on their crazy comeback scenario? The Giants could end up being ahead, like Sam said, as John Sterling likes to call it, the all-important loss column.
Yes, that is very true. And if the Giants win Sunday, they're back up to the 6th seed, slated to play the 49ers, which, quite frankly, I don't know if I want to play the 49ers in the first round, but that's a discussion for a later time. Daniel Jones, 0-9 in primetime games. He said in an interview this week he doesn't think much about it, but he's excited for this opportunity. You have to remember, this is not the same Giants team that Jones played for his first 3 seasons. We really have to remember this. In fact, the Giants are 0-11 in their last primetime games. And Hank, I think the Giants actually haven't won a primetime game since 2018. Is that correct?
Yes, that was the Monday night game against the San Francisco 49ers, and that was one of the last games that Eli Manning won, actually.
2018. Okay, yes. I do remember that now. Nick Mullins started for them.
Correct.
And, Eli Manning.
And the Giants actually gave us false hope with that win because then that was around the time Odell Beckham said, we can run the table, but obviously we know how that worked out.
5-11. Yep. I do remember, but Noah Dog Dibler. One more name change, and Washington will have as many name changes in the past 5 seasons as they have Super Bowls. They have won 3. Right. They have won 3. That is another fun fact. Interesting news from the Washington injury department. Carson Wentz was reinstated from IR on Monday. But
that guy.
Yeah. I do feel bad for him to an extent. And this is just I know I'm a Giants fan, but I'm just going to say it. That torn ACL ruined his career. If he doesn't tear his ACL, he's still a starter in this league. He was magnificent.
Not only that, but I think the way the Eagles handled it wasn't great either. Like, I think they rushed him back too soon because you had Nick Foles, who had just won them the Super Bowl, and you had him as essentially a safety net. And after they lost that game to the Buccaneers in week 2, they decided, let's go back to Carson Wentz. And Had they rested him up a bit, maybe a few more weeks, who knows? Maybe it's a different story.
Yeah.
Mark says, "Holy hell, I was wrong about Wentz." Yeah, I think you were telling me that, Mark. You were a big Wentz guy back in the day. But let's also starting center Tyler Larson placed on injured reserve Monday. Washington will be without their center. He was
That's a big
originally
deal.
their backup, but
That's a big deal, though.
it is.
Losing your center is huge, especially for Taylor Heineke, who's like kind of on a decline, I would think. Like he's not looking like people were like, "Oh my god, he beat the Eagles," and it's like that's kind of all he's done.
Yeah, it's definitely a shame that it's come down to that. Noah says whoever loses this game gets passed by the Lions and kisses the players goodbye.
Misses.
Oh, misses. No kissing. Got it. All right. So let's get into our keys of the game because I wouldn't be shocked if one of us predicts a tie again tonight. It could happen.
Interesting.
It could
What
happen.
would happen? Do you know like what the scenario would be if we did tie again?
It would go to the scenario would be that Washington has the head-to-head because they do now.
Right.
And the strength of schedule, they have more. I think they have more divisional wins,
right,
which matters as they beat Philly. So
if we beat Philly, does it matter?
If we beat Washington, yeah, definitely. No,
but if we tie and then we play Philadelphia and we win, does that matter?
Then I think it goes to strength of schedule if that's the case.
No tie, only wins.
Yeah.
Ties only look good on suits.
There you go, Hank. That is an excellent point.
All right. Keys to the game. Sam, you're first. Key to the game for the Giants to win.
I say it every week. And we say it every single week. Stop the run. It's I've literally been saying this since week 1. Since week 1 of us doing the show this year, I have said that it's the new get off the field on third down. We are so poor at making sure that these running backs don't get through, and it's just terrible. I mean, what is it, 4 rushing touchdowns?
Yeah.
Like on us, like that should not be a thing. There's too many. It's too many. So I'm really, really hoping that even with like the injuries, the cracks in our defense can at least fill in just a little bit, because I know that Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson are slightly injured, but that doesn't matter because apparently we're just bad at it anyway. And like last week, Miles Sanders all over the field in his little neon green freaking cleats all over the place. And I was like, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of him. I was tired of Boston Scott. I was tired of all these running backs. Stop the run. Figure it out.
I don't think pills will help.
What, like Pepto? Oh, God, that's funny.
I agree, Sam. I mean, 5.5 yards they're giving up per carry. That's not good. Hank, you're up.
I am going to say protect Daniel Jones. I mean, he was sacked 4 times last week, and the Commanders also did a pretty good job at getting to him the last time that they played each other, and not to mention their defense is really good. So definitely got to be careful. I think the only guy you really can rely on that offensive line is probably the pillar, and the guy that I've called the most valuable player on offense, that's Andrew Thomas. And I think that's looking more and more obvious as the season goes along. But you know what? Just for the hell of it and for old time's sake, I'm going to add in the obligatory get off the field on third down.
I love it. Yeah, getting off is big. I think last week the Eagles were 6 for 13 on third down, something like that.
And the 4th and 7 touchdown should not have happened.
Unacceptable.
Yeah. Disgusting.
Yeah, no, absolutely terrible. That was the Julian Love snafu, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Getting the hit stick too early. It's a common mistake you've made in Madden when you were younger.
Yeah. That's a play you just have to break up the pass and not go for the flashy play, in my opinion. But cost us. It's over. It's done with. And that's why they have to limit the big plays on defense. You gave up 35-plus yard touchdowns to both Smith and Brown, which is unacceptable. I think I agree with Hank about protecting Daniel Jones because Washington right now, they have 3 players with 7 or more sacks. Sweat has 7. Deron Payne has 8.5. Jonathan Allen has 7.5. Jones, as we mentioned earlier, second highest percentage of dropbacks this year where he's under pressure. Jones is under pressure at 44.2% of his dropbacks. And let's put this into perspective, right? This is Daniel Jones's rankings under pressure. Out of all starting quarterbacks in the NFL, all 32 of them, under pressure, Daniel Jones completes just under 57% of his passes, second best in the NFL. Now, granted, these stats might be a little inflated because other quarterbacks aren't under pressure as much, but these are the stats. 6th in passing yards, 896. 11th in touchdowns, 4. He's one of 2 quarterbacks in the entire league to not throw a pick under pressure. Mark Alkin, if you're still watching, you might like this. The only other quarterback to not throw a pick under pressure this season is Jalen Hurts. Daniel Jones, Jalen Hurts. And one more. The pressure to sack rate is 19.7%. So out of those 44%, only 19% of those are turning into sacks.
That's not bad.
Hell, the touchdown he threw to Hodgins last week, he was under pressure. I don't know if both of you thought the same thing, but I thought he had to throw that ball away.
Yeah. No, I was impressed that turned out to be points on the board.
And then he extended the play, and there's Hodgins. I thought he could have gotten it off to Bellinger early, but he just found the better play. He fooled us all. That's why he's a starting quarterback. You know, he knows best. Daniel knows best, and I think pressuring Taylor Heineke is key for me. He was sacked 5 times 2 weeks ago, yet he still had a lot of yardage. Force him into rush throws. He's a different quarterback when you pressure him, as Sam mentioned. In turn, this will force Washington into 3rd and longs. And in week 13, Washington was 3 for 14 on 3rd down. And granted, they're healthier now because all they've been doing the last 2 weeks has been sitting back thinking about this football game.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
after just playing, they are literally playing us, got their bye, play us again.
Yeah. I agree. And then also winning time of possession is very important, right? I think stopping the run for the Giants and being able to get Barkley going, get Jones going on the ground. Washington had the ball for over 41 minutes in the last game. That does include overtime. That's 70 minutes of football, 41 minutes for Washington. Not good enough. Giants have the 6th best rushing offense in the NFL. They can do this. They can get this done. Noah says
Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones hasn't been under this much pressure since he had to cheat off a smart kid during finals week at Duke.
I'm pretty sure Daniel Jones was a smart kid at Duke.
I was gonna say I think that Daniel Jones is a smart boy.
If he wasn't smart, he still wouldn't be starting. Let's be realistic here, right? I mean, if he was still turning the ball over the way he was his rookie year, he probably would have been benched by now.
And Duke is prestigious. It's a prestigious school to get into. So
I'm pretty sure if he got caught at that school, he would have probably have his head cut off or something.
Probably. They're probably really strict about that.
Yeah. Sam, my teammates are asking you to put the sign up, please.
I will go. Actually, I might put my pennant. My pennant fell. I'll put my Giants pennant back up.
Yeah.
Take my Bills one down, and I'll put it over there. And it'll say the amount of days.
Duke has nothing on set. All right. Noah, calm down, buddy. Okay. I love you, man, but calm down. And then the Giants must stay healthy in this game. You don't get into Duke without smarts, but then again, there's Kyrie Irving.
Also. Kyrie went to Duke?
Yeah.
Wow.
But he only played in like 12 games for them because he was hurt, like almost all of them.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah. Many moons ago. Crazy, right?
Kyrie. Okay. Let's not go down the Kyrie path.
Players to watch. Since there's only 3 of us tonight, let's do at least 2 for both teams. Sam, I'll start with you. We'll do 2 from Washington and then 2 from the Giants.
Okay. So I wrote down too the same position.
Okay.
But it connects to my my key to the game, Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson. I think that they are both, even though they were both limited in practice this past week, Brian Robinson has stepped up a huge amount in this season. And there have been times where Antonio Gibson has stolen the spotlight from him and then he just like grabs it right back. So, not to say that they're competing against each other, but it does seem like Brian Robinson is trying to be this RB1 for the Commanders. And they're very talented running backs. So, like I said, if there is even the smallest gap anywhere in the defensive line, these guys are going to run through it. So those are my 2. And then one of my Giants is Isaiah Hodgins, just because this man's like, he's like a bean that was put in the ground and has just sprouted. Like, he is just an amazing wide receiver that it literally came out of nowhere. He was drafted like 2 years ago. He was on the Bills, obviously was brought in by Dable. I feel like Isaiah Hodgins could be someone, he doesn't get a lot of, not a ton of targets, but the targets that do hit him, he will complete and he'll get down the field and he's reliable. And it seems like him and Daniel Jones are working real well together. So he's definitely going to be one of these guys. And he even scored a touchdown for the past 2 weeks. He's scored 1 touchdown each week. So I think that he's a solid guy to get in the red zone. And my other Giants, I will go with Daniel Bellinger because I want to see more of him. I didn't hear his name at all last week, and I was very excited to be in the same stadium as Daniel Bellinger. I was ready to really soak up that Bellinger wonder, but it didn't happen. So I want to see more from him.
I agree. I didn't he hurt his ribs on that one catch?
Who? Bellinger?
Bellinger. He got like speared in the ribs on his. He caught 3 passes. I'm pretty sure.
He did go out of the game.
Yeah, that's probably why you didn't hear him too much.
Still, I still want to see him more.
He quietly, because usually the announcers will announce when there's an injury, but this injury they just missed. Like, I think it was Joe Davis calling the game with I forget who his color commentator was, but he completely he didn't even bring it up. Like, Bellinger just left the game quietly. They said nothing. So it was hard for me to figure out too. And then I'm like, oh, Nick Vanette's in the game.
Yeah.
Chris Myrick's in the game. Which, by the way, that OPI on Chris Myrick, I'm sorry, absolute BS. Kid did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Did nothing wrong. He's running around. He didn't. He gave the guy a high five. That's all he did. Hank, all right, you're on the clock here. I'm going to distract you from what just happened. So,
okay,
the game's tied.
Players to watch. For me, with regards to Washington, I am going to go with the dangerous duo of Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne. Both of those guys did well in the last game against the New York Giants, and they got to be careful about what damage that they could do. Thought I was going to say Scary Terry, but I decided to go a different route and decided to go with a 2 for here. And you know what? As far as the Giants go, how about I go with Ojulari and KT on the other side?
I love that edge rushing duo so much. That's going to be...
Me too. I think if the Giants are going to win this game, they're going to have a big reason. I'm going to make this prediction too, if I may. One of them is going to be our player of the week next week.
Aziz or Kayvon?
One of them. Yep.
They've been the last 3 weeks. It was
I know.
Kayvon
I know. It's going to continue.
Yeah, that's some crazy stuff there. But for me, I'm going with Jahan Dotson for Washington. He leads the Commanders with 5 touchdown receptions. He's hasn't played too many games this year, but in the games he has played in, he's been effective. He had 5 catches for 54 yards and 1 touchdown back in week 13 and had 9 targets. So the Giants were definitely watching him, but they need to watch him a little more this time around. If you see what I did there. And then the combination of Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne for me, defensive tackles. I mentioned combined 30 tackles for loss between the two of them. Week 13, Allen had a sack. Payne had 2. Those dudes are they were teammates at Alabama. They were both first-round picks. There's a reason why they're really, really good. But yeah, those are my 2 players to watch for Washington. For the Giants, you just took most of the good ones. All right. So Hank went with the 2 edge rushers. Sam went with Isaiah and Daniel Bellinger. I'm going to go with Dexter Lawrence.
Nice.
Back in week 13 against the Commanders, he had 9 tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, and 2 QB hits. Very effective in that game. And for me, I mean, we haven't mentioned him yet. Obvious. I'm sorry, Daniel. It's not going to be Richie James. We're not even sure if he's going to play yet with that concussion. I think he will, but we're not sure.
Did he go through the protocol and everything?
He was limited today in practice. So he's trending in the right direction. Daniel Jones. It's Daniel Jones 100%. He owns the Washington football team. 0-9 in primetime games. I'm not going to look at that stat. 548 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns. The dude is electric. 12 touchdowns, 4 picks, over 2,500 yards on the year. Again, the stats aren't eye-popping, but they're good. Again, ideally, you don't want your starting quarterback to have only 12 touchdown passes in week 15, but we know how limited this offense has been this year. And if you add the 5 rushing touchdowns, he really has 17 touchdowns where he could have thrown the ball, but he elected to run with it. That's the point of having a dual threat quarterback. They may not always throw for 30, 40 touchdowns a year. So those are my 2 to watch for the Giants. All right, so injury report. Sam, it's a long one for us. Washington's pretty healthy because all their guys are limited, but if you want to run through quick the notables here, we know about Ellerson Smith heading to IR, but Giants have a few key guys in jeopardy.
All right, I won't hit everyone then. I'll just hit a few. Adoree Jackson, unfortunately, did not participate in practice due to a knee injury. Richie James, concussion, obviously, limited in practice. Jihad Ward also has a concussion and was limited. There's that rib injury for Daniel Bellinger, who was also limited in practice, which is not great because it seems like he's constantly getting injured, which is not ideal. And Leonard Williams has a neck injury, which he was also limited in practice. On the Commander side, Antonio Gibson has a foot injury, and he was limited in practice. Same with Brian Robinson, limited, but with a quad. Montez Sweat, who was someone we were talking about earlier, he has a concussion, limited in practice. And Chase Young, who I feel like I haven't even seen on the field in quite a number of years, it feels like, has a knee injury, and he was limited in practice as well.
I really hope Chase Young doesn't play, but I have a feeling he's going to be ready.
Out of all the weeks for him to show up.
Yeah. Sweat got a concussion in the Week 13 game, but the average time has been around 9 days for players to come back for a concussion since the Tua Tagovailoa injury. If you get a concussion in one game, about 95% of the time you're not playing the next week. That's just how it's been since the Tua injury. The NFL has been very precautious about it. Hank, anything you want to add before we get to our picks for the game?
You know that we're pretty much cursed with the injury luck, so yeah. I think that pretty much means he's going to play.
I think so. But again, he's not going to be 100%. Montez Sweat dealing with a concussion as well. Washington's a little bit healthier than we are, but we'll see what happens. They might be getting Benjamin St-Juste back as well. Pretty good corner. And they do have a good offensive line. Andrew Norwell, Trey Turner, pair of veterans. Question is, will Wes Schweitzer at center be able to do the job? Because obviously the Giants had a slew of sacks back in week 13. Gosh, it's getting late in the season already. Folks, also, before we get to our game predictions, remember to leave a like on the show. It helps with our algorithm. We really appreciate it. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, make sure to leave a like. You can drop a comment as well if you want. Noah asks, what are your picks? Well, you're in luck because we're just getting to our picks in just a moment. Garth has road rage. Yeah, Garth, you better get your picks in, buddy. The game's starting.
Yeah.
20 minutes. The preview quick picks, that is, our little group picks that we do. Trey Turner was a joke for the Chargers. Well, he's not doing too bad for Washington, Garth. Not nearly as good as Brandon Scherf. But when we had Marty Joins on 2 weeks ago, he mentioned something about their safeties. You mentioned Cam Curl, right? Were you the one that brought up Cam Curl earlier in the show?
I think so.
And their other safety, what's his name? Derek Forrest, that's his name. Dude has 3 interceptions on the season. I'm nervous about him. But, Sam, I'll start with you here. Who are you picking for this game, and what's your final score?
I am upset with my pick. I don't want this to happen. Unfortunately, I have this overwhelming feeling that we're going to lose. I really, really want us to win. Obviously, we will be rooting for the Giants all day, every day. But I just something in my bones is telling me that we're just on the decline. I think Washington's going to win, and the final score is going to be 28-21.
Bam. Hank, before we get to you, Marty chimes in. Now, remember, Marty said the Giants would win in Week 15. Has his opinion changed since he was on the show 2 weeks ago? It has.
Wow.
Marty was not as kind. Has the Commanders winning 28-13. I think he just wants the Commanders to beat us once. And can I blame Marty? No. His team's been resting for 2 weeks. They're more mentally ready for this, I think, than we are. So we will see what happens. Hank, you're up.
All right. Unfortunately, I'm also in the same boat as Sam. And you know what I say. I'd rather be wrong and happy than right and disappointed. But I'm going to say something along the lines of 22-16, Washington.
All right. So both of you went Washington. It's up to me. Tudo says, Tommy, Giants ain't high-scoring team with all their offensive limitations. The only way they could win the game, it's all about their defense to show up and shine. That is a great point. He has Giants winning 23-17. We say, forget about it. Noah says, I have to get my suit pressed first. I don't know what he's talking about, but you know what? All right, so Giants historically very good against Washington. Daniel Jones plays very well at FedEx Field. Giants should have won in Week 13. They're coming off a bad loss against the Philadelphia Eagles. Something's got to give. I'll say it. This team is going to the playoffs.
Someone's got to say it.
I don't care what the doubters say. And the Giants are going to win this football game. They're going to win this football game. I like the fact that Jahad Ward and Richie James both practiced today. I also like the fact that, Daniel Jones played this team just 2 weeks ago. It's fresh in his mind. They don't have to study as much as they normally would. And I think the Giants are just really pissed off. And I really love the fact that Kayvon Thibodeau and Azeez Ojulari will now be playing in their third game together this season. And that's going to be huge. I don't know if Washington can put up with that. I think the Giants are going to make adjustments when it comes to blocking Sweat. And I have the Giants winning by a final score similar to Tudo, but this time I have 23-20.
Nice.
If you remember correctly, that was also my score prediction for week 13.
And we missed that kick.
We missed the kick. So I'm doing it again.
Gotta manifest it.
Rich Soybert agrees with me. Noah, how do you know Rich Soybert? How? He probably just looked up a random Giant. Oh, I know what he's talking about. Philadelphia Eagles are running into the Dan Campbell buzzsaw in the divisional round and getting their kneecaps taken. Rich Soybert is the one, of course, who was penalized for the illegal man downfield in the 2002 wild card playoff game against the San Francisco 49ers, which we hate to mention, but we somehow always mention it on this show. Hey, he redeemed himself. He's a Super Bowl champion.
That he did.
But I'm glad I picked the Giants. Tudo picked the Giants. That's all that matters, folks. Sam, Hank, any final thoughts here before we sign off and get ready for Thursday night football?
I just, if this is going to be Daniel Jones's first primetime win, please make it this one. This is literally our last hope. So, and it's got flex to Sunday night. So we will all be sitting around Sunday night. Won't have to worry about flipping between 1 p.m. or 4:30 games. Sunday night football. It's gonna be an intimidating game, but I'm excited.
Oh boy, this is the first time in who knows how long that I've been nervous about the Giants, and in a sick way, I've kind of been longing for that feeling because of how many losing seasons we have had over the course of most of the decade, although we did get lucky in 2016. Although this team, I'm more nervous because, look, would it necessarily be the worst thing in the world if they lost and missed the playoffs this year? Not really, but here's why I want them to make the playoffs. This is a young core. It would be nice to, get them that first taste of what, a change in culture / playoff feels like. And heck, look what happened to the Eagles. I mean, last year they had a similar season to us where they practically backdoored / limped their way into the playoffs. They got clobbered, but it was a learning experience for them. Look where they're at now. Maybe could the same thing happen to the Giants? Who knows?
I'm very interested to see what happens this week. I think this is the week that Daniel Jones really proves to people he is here to stay. He is here to stay.
Yes.
Daniel Jones will have the game of his life on Sunday Night Football. And I think Saquon will be okay. I don't know if he's going to be great, but I think Azeez Ojulari and Kayvon Thibodeau will be all over Taylor Heineke, 100%. But folks, on behalf of Sam Cardona, Hank and Dictor, my name is Tom Scavetta. Remember to follow us on all of our social media, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, at Big Blue Avenue. And without further ado, let's go Big Blue.